Hi viewers, in today's botany online classroom, we are going to discuss about ecological adaptations. An adaptation is the dynamic evolutionary process that fits organisms to their environment, enhancing their evolutionary fitness. Adaptation is the process to fit to the challenged conditions. So there are different kinds of the adaptations, particularly hydrophytes and xerophytes are the two best examples for the ecological adaptations. So today we are going to discuss about the hydrophytes, different types of the hydrophytes and their adaptations, and different types of the xerophytes and their adaptations. So hydrophytes are plants that have adapted to living either partially or fully submerged in water. Typical features of submerged hydrophytes, for example, nymphia, include large, thin floating leaves, elongated petioles, reduced root system, aerial flowers, little or no waxy cuticle, poorly developed xylem tissue, and little or no lignin in vascular tissues. There is no development in the xylem, and few sclerites or fibers are observed in the hydrophytes. So the plants which grow in water, either partly or wholly submerged, are called hydrophytes or aquatic plants. So they grow in water. They might be fully submerged or partially submerged. Examples are Utricularia, Vallisneria, Hydrilla, Cara, Nitella, Lotus, Ceratophyllum, Trappa, Pistia, Eichhornia, Wolffia, Lemna, etc. So now we are going to see some of the different kinds of the hydrophytes. Free floating hydrophytes. What are the free floating hydrophytes? These hydrophytes float freely on the surface of water but are not rooted in the mud. So they are floating on the surface of the water with the root system. The root system also suspended, floating on the surface of the water. For example, Wolffia, Trappa, Eichhornia, Salvinia, Azolla. So these are the Salvinia and Azolla are the ferns, pteridophyte, hydrophytes. So, and Wolffia, this is the smallest flowering plant. So these are the different varieties of the free floating hydrophytes. They float on the topmost layer. They float on the surface of the water with their root system also floating on the surface. So now we see some of the free floating hydrophytes: Lemna, Salvinia, Azolla, and Salvinia, as we discussed earlier, it is a pteridophyte, hydrophytic pteridophyte, and Azolla also hydrophytic pteridophyte, and Pistia, Eichhornia, and this is a Wolffia. This is the smallest flowering hydrophyte. So these come under the category of free floating hydrophytes. So now another category of hydrophytes is submerged hydrophytes. So plants which grow below the water surface and are not in contact with the atmosphere are called submerged hydrophytes. So these are totally submerged within the water. So they are like they are just like um, um, they are suspended just within the water. These hydrophytes are suspended within the water, so we can't see above the surface of the water. So these hydrophytes can't be seen on the surface of the water. For example, Vallisneria, Hydrilla, Potamogeton, Najas, Ceratophyllum, Utricularia, Cara, and Nitella. So these plants are submerged below the surface of the water and they are not rooted. These kind of the plants are called as submerged hydrophytes. So we see Hydrilla, Vallisneria, and Utricularia, Cara, Ceratophyllum. So we can't see them on the surface of the water, but within the water. So another category is floating but rooted hydrophytes. For example, some submerged plants are rooted, but their leaves and flowering shoots float on or above the surface of water. For example, in the shallow waters, if the water depth is little, then we can observe the Nelumbium, Speciosum, Victoria regia, Nymphia. So these are the kind of the hydrophytes. They have large floated leaves on the surface. At the same time, their roots, they are deeply rooted within the mud. So these kind of the category hydrophytes are called as floating but rooted hydrophytes. Now we see Nelumbo. This is a rooted plant. It is rooted into the mud and simultaneously their large leaves are floating on the surface of the water. Marsilia, and here we see Nymphia. And another category of hydrophytes is amphibious hydrophytes. As the name indicates, it has both the features of some of the parts of the plants are aerial and some are submerged. So these kind of the hydrophytes are called as amphibious hydrophytes. So the aerial parts of these amphibious plants show mesophytic or sometimes xerophytic features, while the submerged plant parts develop true hydrophytic character. So the some lower part is submerged within the water and the topmost part of the aerial topmost part of the plants are aerial. So we can find both the features, like aerial parts show the normal mesophytic features and submerged plants show the hydrophytic features. So some varieties of rice plants, Marsilia, Sagittaria come under this category. Now we see Sagittaria and Ranunculus. So there are different adaptations for the hydrophytic plants. We see there is plenty of water. For the hydrophyte, there is no need of the water because they are within the water. So to adapt to such conditions, what are the changes they are made in their structure? We can see wide flat leaves that spread across the surface of the water to capture as much light as possible. So hydrophytes, as they are in the water, they need lot of sunlight for the photosynthesis. So for this purpose, they, for example, Nymphia, Nelumbo, such hydrophytes have wide flat leaves that spread across the surface of water, and they have very thin or no waxy cuticle because there is no need to conserve water. So the purpose of the cuticle is to prevent the transpiration, to prevent the evaporation of the water from the plants. So here, as there is no need of the cuticle, as they are within the water, usually there is very thin layer of waxy cuticle, and open stomata on upper surface of leaves, and guard cells are inactive. In case of the Nymphia nelumbo, we can see the stomata on the surface, upper surface of the leaves. So these are also called as epistomatic leaves. Epistomatic leaves. That means the stomata are present only on the upper surface of the leaf, but there is no stomata on the lower surface of the leaf. That is called as epistomatic condition. So we observe that in case of the Nymphia and Nelumbo. And in such plants like Potamogeton, the stomata is present, but it is functionless. And water supports leaves and flowers, so no need for strong supportive structures. So their parts like roots, stems, all these are very tender. So they appear very tender, thin. Small roots as water can diffuse directly into stem and leaves. So these are the features. As they have, particularly they are located within the water, there is no need of water, there is no need of root system, very developed root system, because all the plant parts can directly absorb the water because they are within the water. So all the plant parts uh, can absorb the water directly from their parts. So no need of the well-developed root system. So large surface area of stems and roots under water. So this maximizes the area for photosynthesis and for oxygen to diffuse into submerged plants. So as we discussed, this is the Amazon lily, and here we see the leaves. Um, these have the largest leaves, Amazon lily. So here these leaves float on the surface of the water, and they maximize the potential for the photosynthesis, because since they have largest leaf surface, they can capture as much light as possible and they carry out the photosynthesis. And air sacs, so some have air sacs to enable the leaves and flowers to float to the surface of the water. For example, Eichhornia, it has the air sacs. So their leaf bases have the air sacs so that they can freely float on the surface of the water. And parenchyma, the specialized parenchyma tissue, forms in the leaves, stems, and roots of the hydrophytes. So since it has a large air spaces, um, they allow the plant parts to float on the water, and it has several different functions within the plants, making the leaves and stems more buoyant and forming a low resistance internal pathway for the movement of substances such as oxygen to tissues below the water. And this helps the plant to cope with extreme low oxygen conditions in mud by transporting oxygen to the tissues. These are normally found in crop species. So this parenchyma not only helpful in floating the hydrophytes, but also it provides the free space for the storage of the oxygen, because the oxygen levels are very low within the water. So these parenchyma air spaces, they act as the oxygen reservoirs and they supply the oxygen for the respiration of the hydrophytes. And very thin or no waxy cuticle. So there is no necessity for the waxy cuticle for the hydrophytes. And open stomata, as we discussed earlier, or the stomata are functionless, and reduced structure, and wide and flat leaves, and small roots. So these are the specific features of the hydrophytes. As we see here in the internal structure of the hydrophyte, we see larger air spaces, these are useful for the storage of the oxygen, and also it is useful for the free floating of the hydrophytes. So we summarize the morphological adaptations of the hydrophytes. The aquatic plants show the following adaptations. Roots may completely be lacking. For example, Wolffia and Utricularia roots are completely absent because there is no necessity for the specific structures like roots or freely developed. For example, in Hydrilla, they are freely developed roots. And root hairs are absent. For example, lemna are freely developed. And they are feebly developed means very underdeveloped. And root caps may be absent or root packets are present. So usually in the terrestrial plants, we see the protective structures called root caps. But in case of the hydrophytes like Eichhornia, instead of the root caps, we find the modified structures called root packets. And roots are generally fibrous type and adventitious, unbranched or sparsely branched. So as we discussed earlier, root system is underdeveloped in the hydrophytes. So usually root system is fibrous type or adventitious type, and it is not well developed. And the stem is long, slender, weak, spongy, and flexible type in submerged hydrophytes. And the stem is short, stoloniferous, thick, and spongy with extensive parenchyma in free floating plants. So in free floating plants, the stem is very short and stoloniferous, and they have vegetative propagation through the stolons, and they have the spongy structures which allow them to float freely on the surface of the water. And the leaves may arrange in alternate phyllotaxy, for example, Potamogeton, or opposite, for example, Cabomen or Oral, in case of the Hydrilla. So stomata are present on the upper epidermis. So as we discussed earlier, it is called as epistomatic condition. So which is in contact with air and the gaseous exchange takes place as they are located on the upper surface of the leaf. And the upper leaf surface in floating leaves are coated with wax to prevent wilting. So in case of the Nymphia and Nilambo, where we find the free floating leaves, they are coated thickly by the wax to prevent the wilting of the leaves. And many partially submerged plants show heterophyly. For example, Ranunculus, and the entire plant body covered with the mucilage, and the flowers and seeds are less abundant. Usually they propagate through the vegetative reproduction. So usually sexual reproduction is limited in the hydrophytes, and reproduction is mainly by vegetative methods. So now we see the anatomical adaptations of the hydrophytes. So excessive development of parenchyma and elaborate system of parenchyma, that means air spaces, are observed. And poor development of vascular and mechanical tissues. For example, xylem is underdeveloped, and we also see the sclerenchyma is also underdeveloped. So these are, sclerenchyma is the mechanical tissue. It is not needed much in the hydrophytes. And in the vascular tissue also, xylem, the necessity of the xylem is limited, so it is underdeveloped. And cuticle is absent or poorly developed. And stomata are completely absent in submerged leaves. And chlorophyll found in all the tissues, because they need photosynthesis for to the maximum level. So all the plant parts usually contain the chlorophyll. They appear in green color. And mucilage canals and mucilage cells are present, which secrete mucilage to protect the plant body. And the reserve food is in the form of starch grains which occur in cortex and pith. And cystoliths, these are also called as sclerites of various shapes, are seen in leaves and other tissues. So now we see the transverse section of the nymphia root, and where we see the aerenchyma here. There are a lot of air sacs, air chambers, and xylem is underdeveloped. And this is the transverse section of the hydrilla stem. Here also we see epidermis, hypodermis, and this is all aerenchyma, which consists of the air chambers, which allow the storage of oxygen for the respiration. And here also xylem is underdeveloped. You see, in case of the nymphia, the roots are embedded in the mud, but they are poorly developed. Adventitious root system and poorly developed root system is seen here, and long, weak, and pliable stem is observed here. And in case of the nymphia, the leaves are flat and larger in size, and they float freely on the surface of the water for the maximum photosynthesis. And here in the internal structure, we observe the aerenchyma, and xylem is underdeveloped. In hydrilla stem also, we see underdeveloped xylem and aerenchyma. Now we come to xerophytes. So what are the xerophytes? The plants which are growing in xeric or dry environmental conditions are called as xerophytes. Deserts are the best examples for xeric environment, where plants face inadequate water and excessive transpiration. So there is no water available. Water is not available. Scarcity of water is observed in deserts, and they also need to avoid excessive transpiration. So xerophytes are classified into the three categories mainly. First ones are ephemerals. The plants complete their life cycle within a short period are called as ephemerals. They also called drought escapers or drought evaders. So by limiting their life cycle, so they live only in the first phase of the rainy season. They complete their life cycle very quickly. These are called as ephemerals. And next category is called as succulents. So these plants have succulent fleshy organs to store high amount of water in the form of the mucilage. So they accumulate water. They absorb maximum amount of water during the rainy seasons, and they convert this water into mucilage and store the mucilage in their vegetative parts like leaves and stems. So these xerophytes suffer dryness only in external environment. So third category is called as true xerophytes, as these plants are able to live under extreme dry conditions and high temperatures. So now we see non-succulent xerophytes. Here we see Nerium. This is a true xerophyte which grow under the dry conditions. And Pinus, Casuarina, Equisetum, Calotropis, and Ephedra. So these are the non-succulent xerophytes. These are also called as true xerophytes. And we see now the succulent xerophytes with fleshy leaves like aloe vera, agave americana, avartia, bryophyllum, peperomia, kalanchoe. So these are plants, xerophytic plants, store the water in the form of the mucilage in the leaves. So whenever they need water, they utilize the mucilage. And now we see the morphological adaptations of the xerophytes. So xerophytes, their stem shows stunted growth. Usually the growth of the stem is limited. That means it shows the stunted growth. And certain plants have underground stem to tide over the dry season. And plants like acacia, Zypus, etc. have very hard woody stem with thick bark. And in many plants, the leaves are reduced to scaly or spiny, for example, ruscus and asparagus. To prevent the loss of water or to prevent the transpiration in certain plants, leaves are modified as scale leaves or spines. And many plants have very small and narrow leaf blade to reduce the transpiration area. So to minimize the leaf surface, to minimize the transpiration, their leaf surface is limited as reduced to avoid the transpiration. And some plants have shining leaf surface to reflect light. For example, Nerium odorum. So the Nerium odorum leaves have the shining leaf surface as it is coated with the thick waxy layer. It reflects the light to prevent the transpiration. So the main drawback of the xerophytes is the less availability of the water. So to survive in such conditions, xerophytic conditions, so they have to minimize the water loss. So they have to they have to save the water and in the form of the mucilage, and they have to store the water in their vegetative pots, and they have to minimize their leaf surface to prevent the transpiration. So in certain plant leaves, they have very thick and leathery surface to reduce the transpiration. For example, Calotropis procera. So in Calotropis procera, we see a very thick and leathery leaves to prevent the transpiration. And many plants have waxy coating on the upper surface of the leaves, and folded type leaves are seen in some of the grasses to protect the water. And in non-succulent plants, root system is several times larger than the aerial portion. So in non-succulent plants, root system is very well developed and it penetrates deep into the soil so that it can absorb the water very efficiently. So the main features are the very well developed root system and stunted stem and leaves. Either they are modified into scale leaves or spines, or the leaf surface is minimized to prevent the transpiration. So these are the main features of the xerophytes. So now we see in, for example, in case of the Muchlenbeckia, and we see the phylloclads. That means leaves are modified as scale leaves, and the stem is modified to carry out the photosynthesis. So we see the flat stem structures here. It carries out the photosynthesis. It is called as phylloclad. And in Asparagus racemosus, we see the cladodes. So these are here in the branches. Also, the branches are have the single internode, and they are modified to carry out the photosynthesis. These are called as the cladodes. So the modified branches with the single internodes are called as cladodes. They carry out the photosynthesis. For example, Asparagus racemosus. And also we see the Ruscus hypoglossum. Here it is called as cladophyll. The stem is modified into flat leaf-like structure. So it is not the leaf. It appears like the leaf in Ruscus, but it is not the leaf. So such a leaf-like modified flat green structure is called as cladophyll. Here we see the flowers directly produced on the surface of the stem. So it is the evidence that it is not the leaf, it is a flower. So the best example is Ruscus hypoblossom. And Acacia auriculaformis, here also we see the leaf bases. The leaf is ephemeral and the leaf bases modified into flat leaf-like structures to carry out the photosynthesis in Acacia auriculaformis. And as we discussed earlier, xerophytes have well-established root systems. You see here, the root system is deeply penetrated into the soil. These roots grow deeply and in all directions in order to anchor the plants in sandy soil and against the wind, and to help maximizing the water absorption. And now we see some of the cactus xerophytic plants where we see the stem, it stores the water in the form of the mucilage, and the leaves are modified into spines. So these are famously called as cactus. So they show large stems that can store water and widespread root system which can collect water easily from deep within the soil, and thick waxy skin to reduce water loss through pores. And leaves are modified into spines to reduce the surface area and to minimize the transpiration. And now once again we see the adaptations of the xerophytes. A thick waxy cuticle, it prevents the water loss by the surface of the leaves and from the aerial parts like stems. And sunken stomata. So most xerophytes have their stomata located in pits are called as sunken stomata. So they are located on the lower surface of the leaves to prevent the direct sunlight. And reduced stomata. Stomata is reduced and reduced leaves. So in the xerophytes, usually leaves are modified into scale leaves or spines. So these spines protect the plants. And the anatomical adaptations of the xerophytes are presence of thick cuticle on the upper surface of the leaves, because that upper surface of the leaves is directly exposed to the sunlight. So to prevent the water loss by the heat, it has the thick cuticle. This thick cuticle or thick waxy layer, it prevents the water loss in the form of the transpiration. And the epidermal cells are thick walled. So it also one of the protective layer. And multiple epidermal layers are seen on both upper and lower surface of leaves. For example, Nerium odorum, where we see the epidermal layers are several epidermal layers or multiple epidermal layers are seen in case of the Nerium odorum. So it also prevents the water loss. And stomata are reduced in numbers and are sunken type. So as we discussed earlier, so usually we don't find the stomata on the upper surface of the leaves, and these stomata are limited in number and they also are observed at the lower surface of the leaves. So these are sunken type. So they are deep within the pits. This kind of the stomata are called as sunken type. Sunken type means stomata are located in deep pits. This type of the stomata are called as sunken type. So the stomata pits are filled with the number of hairs to prevent the transpiration. So now we see the anatomical, the transverse section of the nerium leaf here. So this is the upper surface of the leaf and this is the lower surface of the leaf. Here on the upper surface we see several layers of the epidermis. So this is called as multiple epidermis. So it protects the leaf from the water loss. And here we see it is differentiated into mesenchyma is differentiated into palisade parenchyma and also sponge parenchyma. And here we see the sponge parenchyma below, and we also see the sunken stomata at the lower surface of the leaves, and we also see this pit is surrounded by several hairy structures. So this sunken stomata, the purpose of the sunken stomata is to prevent the water loss as it is located in the pits. And also thick walled sclerenchyma cells are seen in the hypodermis, for example pinus needle. So this is one of the important features, the presence of the mechanical tissue, well developed mechanical tissue in the plant parts. Sclerenchyma is a mechanical tissue. It is well developed in the, usually it is well developed in the xerophytes, and few spongy parenchyma cells with small intercellular spaces also observed, and presence of many layered palisade parenchyma is observed. So in comparison to spongy parenchyma, and palisade parenchyma is very well developed and many layered palisade parenchyma is seen, and the cells are relatively smaller in size and the vacuoles are small, and well developed vascular tissues are present. Particularly xylem tissue is very well developed because water is very much needed for the xerophytes. So each fraction of the water is absorbed by the roots as it penetrates deep into the soil, and each drop of the water collected is efficiently transported by the well-developed xylem in the xerophytes. Thank you.